I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden.
Republicans have presented absolutely zero evidence.
Absolutely no evidence.
There's no evidence.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh.
The impeachment inquiry is officially on, says Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, yesterday. Also, college debt. Interest rates are going up for college debt, they're starting to pay interest again on the college debt. And last but not least, Canada. What are they doing about masks? All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker that is completely and utterly cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Wednesday, September 13th, year of our Lord 2023, the day the impeachment inquiry has officially started. I guess that was yesterday. But yeah, that's all the rage in politics as of right now. We're going to check out what actually happened, what some people that are against it said, and then look at the new, mostly peaceful protests. There is a new one of those. It is, spoiler alert, without evidence. Yes, that's correct. The term without evidence or no evidence is going to be the new, mostly peaceful. You heard it here first. But to get right into things, Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, yesterday launched an impeachment investigation into President Joe Biden, impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Watch this and we'll discuss.
I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. It's exactly what we want to know.
Okay, doesn't need to go into his whole spiel there. It's really pretty self-explanatory. They are launching an official impeachment inquiry. What does that mean? Well, several people in the comments section saying this. Sherry says, impeach Biden. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Faith saying impeach Biden. A bunch of people just saying impeach Biden. Jackie saying it's about time. And then Brian saying long time coming. Yes, all of those things correct. But just like Kevin McCarthy said, this is an impeachment inquiry, which allows the House committee, headed up by, I believe, James Comer, Congressman Texas, I think. I'm pretty sure he's from Texas, to get all of the information that he wants/needs to investigate the President of the United States and his dealings with his son Hunter throughout the world, throughout the country, and throughout the last several years, decade even. But all of that is finally coming to a head when Kevin McCarthy put forth the idea that we're now going to officially inquire about it. Now, that was obviously met with not a lot of happy news from the Democratic side of the aisle, which also led me down a rabbit hole of getting a better understanding that the American people, I think as a whole, or at least the people that are on Twitter and social media as a whole, don't know what impeachment is. They don't know what it means. They don't know what it is. They don't know that it's not a criminal trial at all. So anyway, I'm going to play you a Liz Warren clip, Senator D, Massachusetts. Here's what she said. And just for the record, she's a Harvard law professor by trade and therefore should know better than what she's saying. Watch this.
This is the extremist Republicans trying to figure out how they can use the business of the American people, doing the work we're supposed to do, as leverage to try to improve their political position. They know that there is no basis for this.
First things first. First things first, she knows that there is a basis for it. She's not blind and or deaf and can read or see or hear the news and the rumblings around about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. So there's that. That just goes sideways. But then she said, well, this is a political process. In which case, I say, yes, it is. Impeachment is entirely a political process for those people who don't know. Like I said, I went down a rabbit hole yesterday looking at people talking about impeachment, talking about the impeachment inquiry, and it turns out a lot of people, especially Biden supporters, of which I don't know if they're Biden supporters or anti-Trump. I don't think there are any actual Biden supporters. But anyways, people that claim to be on Joe Biden's side, including Hakeem Jeffries, leader of the minority in the House, said they're going to stand by Joe Biden in this non-evidence-based impeachment. A lot of people think that you have to have like this smoking gun in order to impeach a president. Now, the Constitution says high crimes and misdemeanors, but those are super vaguely defined. What is a high crime? As far as a misdemeanor, I have a misdemeanor, I think. I don't know if I actually... You know what? As a matter of fact, I think that actually turned into a traffic ticket, but I digress. A misdemeanor is not a huge crime. A lot of people have misdemeanors. I'm not encouraging or endorsing people going and getting misdemeanors, but it is not to the level that a lot of people think when you come to impeachment. And on top of that, impeachment is not a trial process. It is not trying to find whether or not the president did something illegally. It's whether or not the president has the capacity to serve as the president of the United States, or anybody in the federal government who can be impeached. Do they have the capacity to do their job? I've made the argument a lot of times that I think more presidents should get impeached, because if you look at the way the country is designed, Congress is supposed to make the rules and the president is supposed to enforce those rules. Several presidents, I don't want to go on a list here and name a bunch, but several presidents have done the exact opposite, knowingly acting against what Congress has said and what the Supreme Court has said. First thing that jumps to mind is when Joe Biden's CDC put a moratorium on rental units, rent, evictions in rental apartments. The CDC said you can't evict people, and then the Supreme Court said that's not in your jurisdiction. You can't do that, effectively saying that the Constitution does not give you power to do that. And the Biden administration said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. That, to me, is an impeachable offense. Shows an inability to do the job, or a blatant disregard for the Constitution, which would in fact be an inability to do the job. What I'm getting at here is the impeachment process is not a legal process. In other words, there's no punishment for a crime. The only thing that happens if you get impeached and removed is you get removed from that office. You don't go to jail. You don't pay a fine. You don't have some sort of probationary period in which you can't do things, because it doesn't have to be a law that is broken. Impeachment is inherently and specifically a political process. So when Liz Warren says, well, they're trying to improve their political standing, yes, that's the point of impeachment. And again, you should know that. You are a Harvard law professor. Now, that is the, I guess, upper echelon of the Democratic senators. But the bottom rung of the Democratic senators, one John Fetterman, was asked about his thoughts on the impeachment inquiry in the hallway of Congress. And here's his response. Check this out.
Ask you about this news that Speaker McCarthy has formally launched an impeachment or has said he's going to.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh, it's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it. Oh no, oh no.
So we gotta run back to the office,
but not gonna lie, that seems to be pretty on par for John Fetterman, his kind of reaction and response. But at the same time, I don't know. Is it the most professional thing to do, especially wearing his t-shirt and basketball shorts with the drawstring hanging out? Which, mind you, even if you dress like a slob, I dress like a slob a lot of the times, nobody hangs their drawstrings out. You tuck them in, you tie them if you need to. If the elastic is fine for you and they can hold you up, that's fine. But you gotta tuck the drawstrings in, even if your goal is to dress like a schlub, which John Fetterman does. What was I talking about? The whole impeachment thing is a long time coming, I think a lot of people think. I am pro-impeachment, but I'm also pro-impeachment in a lot of other cases. I would not be upset if presidents got impeached more often. The reason I say that is because, again, the lawmaking capability rests in Congress. And over the past several decades, the president has absorbed more and more power from Congress into the executive branch and kind of done whatever the president wants to do. I don't like that. I wish Congress would hold the president to account for taking power away from them by impeaching the president more often. That being said, we're getting to the new term of the day. Remember mostly peaceful protests, when we had mostly peaceful protests that burned down cities and destroyed neighborhoods and towns and were violent across the entire country, but then when labeled on cable news, it was literally mostly peaceful. What was that one clip of that reporter on CNN who literally had the chyron that said mostly peaceful protest, and there was a huge fire in the back of him? Well, the new mostly peaceful is going to be without evidence. Now, this, I think, is mostly an example of how insulated our politics is nowadays. The left doesn't watch the right's TV shows. The right doesn't watch the left's TV shows. But this is a great example of it. I'm going to play you a montage. I'm not going to play the entire thing because it's super long, but we are going to play a pretty decent chunk of it, of the entirety, it seems like, of the media saying, well, there's no evidence here. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. Despite the fact that Republicans and your right-leaning media outlets have been saying, hey, look at all of this evidence. There was a congressman yesterday during one of the press conferences that went off on a reporter, basically saying that there's no evidence that you can see because you refuse to see it, which is exactly the case. So here's a montage that we'll play for you that's going back and forth between here is the evidence and then here's the media saying, oh, there's no evidence. Watch this.
The bank records show the Biden family, their associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals.
Republicans have presented zero, absolutely zero evidence.
There are thousands of pages of documents relating to financial transactions.
Zero evidence.
We've identified 6 new Biden family members involved.
Absolutely no evidence.
There's no evidence President Biden has any involvement here.
Text messages from Hunter's laptop where Hunter complains about having to carve out huge amounts of the money he makes for his father. Quote, but unlike Pop at the bottom, I won't make you give me half your salary.
No evidence of that.
Well, I mean, he hasn't produced any evidence.
They have uncovered no evidence.
Various shell companies and this web of LLCs. You have Rosemont Seneca Partners, Rosemont Seneca Advisors, Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners, RSP Holdings.
CNN has reported on this. There's no evidence.
RSTP2 Bravo, Rosemont Seneca Thornton, Rosemont Seneca Bohai.
They haven't produced much evidence.
We've seen very little evidence.
According to the testimony, President Joe Biden was there when Hunter Biden messaged Chinese businessman Henry Zhao on WhatsApp.
With no evidence of that.
A bribery scheme of which there isn't any evidence to back that up.
There's really no evidence.
Well, we've been presenting evidence. We've been presenting bank records that show wires from China that were then laundered through shell companies.
There has been no evidence. There's been no evidence at all. They have no evidence. Say it again.
Yeah, they have no evidence. Archer did not provide any evidence connecting President Biden to his son's business dealings.
He was aware of Hunter's business. He met with Hunter's business partners. You found a letter that illustrates that he knew me in the rear view. It's an abuse of soft power, I'd say.
Has any of them once provided evidence of what they are claiming?
Well, not anything other than circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, not anything other than overwhelming amounts of circumstantial evidence. I'm trying to find this tweet specifically from the editor-in-chief at the Daily Caller, but I'll characterize it. He basically says, it's fascinating how the goalposts have moved constantly when talking about this whole idea. It was first, Joe Biden didn't even talk to Hunter Biden about their business dealings. Never had he ever talked. Then the narrative was, well, Joe Biden wasn't involved in the actual business. And now they're saying no evidence that Joe Biden was actually involved after evidence came out that he did talk to Hunter about his business. No evidence that he was ever involved or did anything like that. And now the narrative is no specific evidence, which, you're not going to, I've said this many times on the show, you're not going to find a smoking gun, because even people who are corrupt crack addicts, i.e. Hunter Biden, aren't stupid. In other words, you're not going to find a text message that specifically says from Hunter. And this is what the media says. This is basically what they're saying. Well, they need to find something like this. You're not going to find this. You're not going to find a text message from Hunter saying, okay, Joe Biden, comma, my father, I have sent the $20 million to our account. And then Joe Biden replying, thank you for that money, Hunter Biden, signed Joe Biden, Vice President. I will now change the policy. No, you're not going to find that. It's just not existent. But that is the standard now that the media is saying needs to exist, or else, well, there's just no specific evidence whatsoever, despite all of the evidence surrounding this certain situation that Joe Biden seems to have himself entangled in. But at the end of the day, I guess we'll all see. Again, I am pro-impeachment, and not just Joe Biden. I'm pro-impeachment of more presidents who do act outside of the bounds that Congress is, outside of the authority that Congress allows them to with respects to the executive branch executing Congress's laws. I guess we'll see. It remains to be seen whether or not Joe Biden will be impeached. Just as a reminder, even if he is impeached, the Senate does not have enough votes in it to remove him from office. So at the end of the day, who knows? He'll probably get impeached, realistically, probably, and then nothing will happen. Same thing with Donald Trump. Same thing with we've never removed a president from office. I think Nixon resigned before he could get removed. So there is all of that. Sorry for that long, somewhat rambly tirade, I guess. But I want to get to this. I want to get to some other stuff going on in the country. I thought this was a fascinating story from CBS. So as you know, Joe Biden, the evil president of the United States, has mandated that interest starts accruing for college student loan debt. I say that obviously sarcastically because it had to happen at some point. Did you know that college debtors, student loan debtors, have not been paying anything for the last 3 years? And that debt started accruing in September, and payments will resume next month in October. Well, CBS did a news story in which, golly gee, such a shame that people are going to have to pay back their debt. And they highlighted this particular individual. I forget her name specifically, but you'll hear from her, and you'll hear how much college debt she has, how long it's going to take to pay it off, how much it is per month, and then they gloss over what I think is the most important freaking part of this story. I want you to watch this, and we'll discuss on the other side, but this is happening, and people are taking this sort of an argument seriously. Check this out.
Rochelle Brooks knows the power of higher education. The once homeless single mother says college pulled her out of poverty.
How many degrees do you have?
I've got an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degree, teaching credential, and a doctorate degree.
Could you have done it without taking out student loans?
Absolutely not.
Now 36 and an LA public school principal, Brooks and her fiance are expecting a baby girl. But she never expected her student loan debt would balloon to more than $230,000.
Oh, that is a big number.
It's huge.
When bills go out again in October, she'll owe $700 a month. At that rate, she'll be paying off her student loans well into retirement.
That $700 a month could be food, it could be gas, it could be bills paid.
Some people just simply won't be able to make the payment.
Braxton Brewington is with the Debt Collective, a nationwide union of borrowers fighting to erase debts.
The majority of student debtors actually have an annual income less than $75,000.
Okay, so a lot of that, there's a lot to get to there, and I'm curious in the comment section what you think about that, or if anything stood out to you in particular. The thing that stood out to me is, first and foremost, $230,000 student debt. Yes, that is a lot. But then when they pulled it up on the screen, they acted like, well, this just ballooned to an astronomical number. Okay, well, interest hasn't been accruing for the last 3 years per the government. And so it didn't just balloon, it was always there. Well, why was it always there? Nobody is against this lady going to college or anything like that. But at the same time, she said she has an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, and a doctorate, and a teaching credential. Okay, why do you need all those? And what purpose are they serving? In what way is that enhancing your ability to earn more income? Because in my view of it, as a man with just a simple bachelor degree and no student debt anymore, I just, I would envy somebody who has, on top of my degree, 2 master's degrees and a doctorate. I would assume that she is making a substantial amount more money than I am. Unless, of course, just getting degrees for the sake of having degrees is not necessarily going to increase your income. Who would have thought of that? In which case, how am I supposed to feel bad about that? Again, good for her. Go do your thing, but there is a cost to doing those things. If you get a teaching credential, 2 master's degrees, and a doctorate degree, that has to enhance your income. And if it doesn't, am I supposed to feel bad about you taking out the student loan debt to pay for those things? Interesting thing to point out, CBS. Not sure you put 2 and 2 together. And yes, it is, I guess, well, I'm not even going to say that. I was going to say, it is sad that she has to pay that money. But she also got something for it. Maybe put all of those degrees to use to start making more money and paying that off. $700 a month is a lot, yes. And maybe, I'll throw this caveat in there, maybe society and the media like CBS told her that she had to get those degrees. In reality, no, you don't. That's just the reality of it. I don't know what to tell you other than if you have those degrees, they should turn into something. And that turning into something should be cash. And if it's not turning into cash, maybe you shouldn't have got degrees to begin with. Then they go into that other person, the coalition, the union of people who are fighting to eliminate student loan debt. I'd be curious how that group is organized because if it is a nonprofit, which a lot of those types of groups are, they can't advocate for a specific policy, in which case that would revoke their nonprofit status. And if they're just a union and people who owe student loan debt are paying into that to fund that group, then they can pay to fund the group, but they can't pay the student loan debt. Anyways, enough about the actual group. I think the last thing that he said there was pretty interesting. He said a majority of student loan debtors owe, a majority of them make less than $75,000 a year. Okay, well, that's interesting. First, I don't know if I believe that. Just straight up to the point, I don't know that I believe that. 2, even if that were true, a majority is 50 plus 1. Okay, so let's say 51% of people who have student loan debt make less than $75,000 a year. Okay, well, $75,000 a year is well above the household income, not individual income, household income. The national average for, I think, the median household income is like $63,000 a year in this country, and that's the household, that's not the individual. So let's assume that the student debtor makes above the household average, and maybe they also got married to another person who has student loan debt, and they together make triple or quadruple the average household income and still have student loan debt. What I'm getting at here is, how bad are we supposed to feel for these people? And can you use that as a metric to garner support for your side? My answer would be no. If you're saying that, well, look at these people only make $15,000 more than the national household income, I don't know how bad I'm supposed to feel about that. And by I don't know, I mean, I don't feel bad at all. Bottom line is, if you decide to buy something, and that's what I see college as, you're buying an education and also an experience. If you decide to buy something, you need to pay for it. It's just the reality of the way the world works. And if you don't like that reality, then you don't like reality at all, because that's just how things are. That's the best system humanity's ever come up with. And if we were to just go around and give everybody everything for free all the time, society would collapse faster than it's collapsing now. So at the end of the day, yes, that is a lot of money that you got to repay. But you do have to repay it because you did get things from it. And if you're not exercising those things that you got from it to the fullest extent to utilize those skills and abilities that you earned and I didn't, I don't know how to help you. Maybe you should put them to better use. Let's see. There's some people in the comment section. I feel like they're claiming things about this young lady that I don't know to be true. This is actually interesting. Rays says, try staying in school for life. Has anybody tried that life hack? If you just constantly stay in school, if you're constantly getting 4-year degrees, which turn into 6 years, 8 years, is that possible? I don't even know. Anyways, Jeanette says, being an adult, pay your bills. They are your bills. Correct. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much all the comments that make sense here in this particular statement. Or particular segment. Let's go to this then. Briefly, before we hop off out of here in our little window that we have. Has Canada outlasted its usefulness? A question that I've posed a number of times. Do we still need America's hat? I have a stand-up bit that I'm not going to say here, but trust me, it's hilarious. Effectively about invading Canada. And that would be my number one policy standpoint as the President of the United States. I'm not going to go through the bit. If you want to see it, we're live. Bunch of different shows throughout the fall and into next spring. So go see us there. But has Canada outlasted its usefulness? The more ridiculous stuff that comes out of America's hat, the more I think yes. I think we should be done with them as a nation, as a recognized sovereign nation. What am I saying? Am I saying that we should just take over Canada? Maybe. But if you have people like this in power in the great state of America's hat, you may think to yourself, well, those people might need some help. I want you to watch this. This is a clip from Canada's Parliament, I think. One of the systems that they have up there. Talking about masks. You see they are all in masks, and they are continuing to wear masks, despite it being proven not effective by the New York Times, by the way. Remember that right-wing conservative blog, The New York Times, had an opinion piece earlier this year. Mask mandates didn't work, but did we learn anything? Yet Canada continues to do the mask thing. Watch this, and we will discuss briefly on the other side.
Just as a follow-up, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to take note. You're all masking, which is lovely to see, of course, but most government ministers are not now. Most MPs are not. Most people on the street are not masking. Is there any specific guidance on that going forward at this point?
Yes, Teresa Tam. So it is a layer of protection. We hope people have developed the habit to be able to use masks as needed during the respiratory virus season, not just for COVID, but for all the other respiratory pathogens that will be transmitted around this time. So I do think now is the time to get your masks ready if you don't already have them. In our own particular context, we certainly in our area, there's been an uptick in some of the COVID-19 indicators. For me personally, there have been cases around, even my work colleagues. So that's one of the reasons why we are wearing masks today.
I feel like that's not a good Canadian accent. I think she could do a better job at that. She kind of sounded possibly Australian. But if you missed it, the big hiccup there was, not just COVID, but all of the respiratory illnesses. We should wear masks just in case, forever, in perpetuity. At least that's how I understood the argument made by this lady. But anyways, Jody says, Oh, she's such a goofball. I like that. I like that as a reaction. Trudeau is Canada's version of Biden. Yeah, that's true. Ryan says we should all get our John Candy from Canadian Bacon on. I agree. You know, never mind. That'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. That's what I was going to say. I like the attitude. Just another goofball. I like that attitude as just, as a whole, I think conservatives, freedom lovers, right-leaning voters tend to be having more fun in life just on average. But we also tend to be the most angry when it comes to this kind of dialogue. I like the whole throwing our head back and laughing at stupidity as opposed to getting so angry all the time. Because in reality, in their actual everyday lives, I would imagine that a lot of people watching this show are much happier than people living through the bad policy decisions that they voted for. So anyways, that's that. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere. We're restructuring the show a little bit. I don't know if we're going to be continuing on this particular format. So if you would like to continue seeing what we're doing, just go ahead and follow on any of these social media platforms. The Facebook page is incorrect. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me on there. But yeah. Also, if you want tickets to any of the comedy stuff, you can go to my website. You can go to freedomcomedyevents.com, buy tickets there. But we will be on tour for the almost foreseeable future, the way it looks, the calendar. But yeah, we will be doing that stuff. So if you want to come see me, hang out, it'd be great to meet you. We'll have a lot of fun. Yeah, you can do that also at the social media sites. That'll do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, probably. God bless America.